Karoline Leavitt is the White House press secretary, and she held one of the most humiliating briefings I've ever seen. This was a so-called new media briefing. And the first topic that came up from these great new media journalists was about Uber drivers and truck drivers speaking English, which is a new area of concern for the White House.
Accessible presidency in American history. So with that, let's kick it off. And I'm happy to take your question first, Aaron.
Thanks so much, Caroline, both for having us and for granting me the first question here.
Sure.
And I can attest to the deportations in Florida. My Uber drivers finally speak English again, so thank you for that.
Understand what she's saying. Thanks to Trump deporting people, her Uber drivers now speak English. And this is Sean Spicer on the left who's chuckling about it.
My question for you is, what are the administration's plans for those who continue to defy the executive orders? Most notably, on my mind, are the ones related to what some would call trans men. I would call men masquerade as trans women, which are men masquerading as girls in girls' sports.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
All right. So the anti-trans question to kick things off, and let's now get to this issue of the driving. Karoline Leavitt bravely and courageously announcing a new initiative in which truckers will be able to speak English.
And then the third executive order, which actually speaks to the heart of your question earlier about the Uber drivers, will be a order directing the Department of Transportation to include English literacy tests for our truckers. This is a big problem in the trucking community that, unless you're in that community, you might not know. But there's a lot of communication problems between truckers on the road, with federal officials and local officials as well, which obviously is a public safety risk. So we're going to ensure that our truckers, who are the backbone of our economy, are all able to speak English.
You know, there's a different discussion to be had here. First of all, in Tennessee, they looked at doing the exact same thing. To be a commercial driver, you've got to be able to speak English. That idea was killed because they recognized in Tennessee it would absolutely cripple the transportation industry. And of course, the idea that the party of small government is going to draft an unenforceable executive order designed to police people speaking certain languages is yet another one of these contrasts. And we say we are for small government, but really we're not. But there's another thing. I've driven in countries where I don't speak the language. Certainly, globally, it is not considered an issue of safety for drivers not to speak the language. And in fact, most road signs are designed so that you don't need to speak the language, at least not on the issues of critical safety. You know, I guess bridge freezes before road. Okay, that's the one that is a little bit idiomatic and you know, it's not just a number with a speed limit on it. But for the most part, the global community has already decided you don't need a language test to drive. When I drove in the Flemish part of Belgium, I don't speak a word of that language, but I was still licensed and allowed to rent a car. So the point here is, this is obviously not an issue of safety. It's another one of these virtue signaling type issues. Karoline Leavitt at one point sort of struggling with language. Listen to this.
We want Congress to continue getting to work, but we got to get this reconciliation pill.
That we have to get this BAST pill. I guess she means this bill passed. And then finally, Sean Spicer, who at one point was the press secretary at the very beginning of Donald Trump's first term. He had a Newsmax show, which was then canceled. I don't even know what he's doing now, but he was in the new media briefing.
Yeah, well, you know, had to swing by and say hi. Thank you for doing this. I think it's marvelous what you guys have done to bring in new voices, and it shows, it reflects the president's commitment to transparency and to bring this in. So I've got two quick ones for you. The first is, you mentioned reconciliation. Beyond that and what he hopes to get out of that, considering how slim the House majority is, what other legislative priorities does he want to see codified in law before this Congress adjourns?
Yeah. Anyway, the whole point here is, I don't know in what way Sean Spicer is now new media. He's like part of the most staid and outdated elements of the media apparatus than I can remember. But they've got a new media briefing, and Sean Spicer is there. Now, several of you emailed me saying, David, would you go to this? Of course I would go. I would go and I would ask a real question, and they'd probably never invite me back. But of course, if I was invited to ask questions of this administration, why would I turn that down? Absolutely. I did apply, by the way, to this new media thing that they did. you may not be shocked to hear that I did not hear back. After researching, writing, refining, The Echo Machine, my book, is finally out. This is not just a book about how American politics got so broken. It's also about what's happening right now and what we can still do to stop things from getting worse. Trump's been back in power. The results have been even more catastrophic than many feared, with targeting of political opponents and gutting democratic institutions, laying the groundwork to even further consolidate power. But the thing is that none of this is inevitable. The same forces that brought us here can be countered if we understand how they work and what to do about them. And that's what the Echo Machine is all about. Some say that without corporate media backing, books like this can't succeed. I think we can prove them wrong. You can get the Echo Machine right now at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, or by calling any local bookstore and asking them to order it. This book is more important than ever. If you care about what happens next, and I do, check out The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo.